Disclaimer, if you do not want the Kingdom Hearts story to be spoiled, please turn off this video and come back after you have played the games. Thank you and enjoy the video.
So, I was finally able to track down Ventus. Now, he was a little bit hard to defeat, but I was able to defeat him. And where I put him, no one will be able to find him.
Holy crap, Ventus! There's no one around here. I can't just leave him here. Here you go, man.
Ventus, you're in a coma. In order to wake up, you must revisit parts of your past. Excellent, Ventus. You've completed the task I set out for you. And now for that, you're going to wake up back in November. Go forth! Rekindle the flame that went out!
Whoa. Don't know how I got here, but I'm back here at least. It's November! Well, it's almost been 2 months. I think it's all over. With some of the stuff I've seen, I wonder if I was in a coma or something. Maybe I should go back to the basics. But what?
Hey guys, it's KH Gamer, and today I'll be showing you my Kingdom Hearts collection.
Oh! Of course, why didn't I think of this sooner? This is the game that kickstarted my channel. I think it's time to take a look back at the game that started it all for me. The original Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts was released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2. It was a very niche concept that ended up being loved by many. It all started when Tetsuya Nomura overheard a conversation between Shinji Hashimoto and Hironobu Sakaguchi talking about wanting to make a game with Mickey Mouse in it, but they couldn't get the rights to him. In a later interview with Nintendo's late former president Satoru Iwata, Nomura said while he was working on Final Fantasy VII, Super Mario 64 was released, and that he wanted to make a 3D open world game like it, but brought up how it would be hard to rival Mario's popularity. After all of that and Hashimoto's god timing when stepping into an elevator with a Disney executive, Kingdom Hearts started development, with a trailer being shown off at E3 2001 and later on releasing on December 2nd, 2002 in the US, being a massive success, later having a final mixed version with exclusive content to Japan and launching an entire franchise releasing on every goddamn console under the sun.
Okay, I think I have everything I need to play Kingdom Hearts. Why do they wait until I cancel my life insurance to release it all on one system?
Now for my history with the series. I actually started with Kingdom Hearts 2 when I was 5 years old. Why? Well, because at the time, my brother was picking up a lot of random PS2 games. I don't exactly get why though.
Welcome back to Josh's Gamer Halls, featuring me, Josh, on the Josh channel. So, first we got Sonic Mega Collection. It's got some of the old-ass Genesis games. I'm really hoping I enjoy this. Yeah, Sonic Mega Collection. Next we got Dora's Journey to the Purple Planet, because why not? Dora's a Nickelodeon icon. She's a rep. She's gonna be in Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, you know. And then we got Kingdom Hearts 2. It has 2 on it. I think that's implying it's a sequel. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I'll be fine.
Yeah, so Kingdom Hearts 2 was my first Kingdom Hearts game. People are usually surprised when I tell them that, considering how big of a fan I am of the franchise. And also, when somebody brings up the idea of playing the games out of order, I'm basically out for blood at that point. I really liked Kingdom Hearts 2, mostly because of all the Disney characters. It was enough for me to want more. 2 years later, I started to learn how to use the internet a lot more. So I found out what Kingdom Hearts 1 looked like, and a week later, for having good grades, my parents took me to the store and got me Kingdom Hearts 1. I was really excited to play the game, but my 7-year-old brain wasn't really that smart. You see, Kingdom Hearts 1 doesn't tell you exactly what to do, so my 7-year-old brain was completely clueless. So instead of looking it up on the internet, I just kept restarting the game over and over and over again. I actually never ended up fully beating the game until I was 12, where there was a beginner mode on the PS3 version. But over the years, I figured out how the game worked and basically have it memorized at this point. Just a heads up here, I will be basing this video off of the Kingdom Hearts Final Mix version because it's the definitive version of the game. Now into the actual game itself. The story starts off with our main character Sora drowning, but at the same time not, and having dreams of stained glass Disney princesses? When you first get into the game, you are told to pick a power to make your main power, and then one to give up. The sword for strength, shield for defense, and staff for mystic. I personally chose the sword. But for the love of God, choose the sword or shield and give up magic. You will still have magic in the game no matter what you choose. But please, for the love of God, for the best experience, choose the sword or shield. After learning some basic combat on a miscolored Cinderella and taking a BuzzFeed personality quiz by some Final Fantasy characters, we end up at the Dark Side boss fight. I never really struggled with this part of the game too much. I basically just bashed his hand with the sword until the game attempted to give me a seizure. Once we're done with that, we fade into darkness and wake up on the shore of Destiny Islands, where we get jump scared by Sora's friend Kairi. Sora goes on to explain the events of his dream to her, and then we're introduced to Sora's other friend Riku, who is just an edgelord. The three of them are making a raft to venture off their home island. This is the start of day 1 at Destiny Islands. It's nothing too complex. All you really do is find the items that Kairi tells you to. None of these items are really that hard to find, but there's also a variety of optional fights. There's Selphine, which to be honest I can't help but feel bad for whenever I beat her, Titus, who fucking deserves it, and Waka, who scares me and should honestly be a part of the anime haiku, and finally Riku, who beat me the entire decade I've been playing this game. I've never been able to beat Riku on Destiny Islands, because he does this one weird thing where he turns into a ball and then jumps up and kicks you in the face. Come on! He be damn Sonic the Hedgehog. Once that is all said and done, we get hit with what sounds like the 20th Century Fox theme at Disney Castle. We are introduced to Donald and Goofy after Donald has a stroke and abuses Goofy when he realizes King Mickey is gone. Oh yeah, Minnie and Daisy are here too, but nobody cares about them. Now we are back at Destiny Islands. We can now explore the other side of the island. Before you can actually do anything important, you're forced to go up against Riku in a race. Why? For being captain of the raft and sharing a Paopu fruit with Kairi, because the Paopu fruit apparently has some sort of romantic symbolization? Anyways, with this race, the amount of struggle I have is completely random. Some playthroughs I will leave Riku in the dust, while others I'll climb down and have Sora hug a tree for no apparent reason. Once we are done with that nonsense, we collect some mushrooms that make Sora remember a memory from his childhood, and make what I think is Obi-Wan Kenobi in that cloak appear. Then we run into the ocean, collect some fish, because fishing rods I guess don't exist in this universe, and abuse some trees with a wooden sword and call it a day. Back at good old Disney Castle, Donald and Goofy along with Jiminy Cricket are preparing to go on a journey to find the wielder of some key that the king wrote about in his letter. And now a storm is brewing on Destiny Islands!
Wait, what?
Huh? It's just a weather alert. I don't really think it can stop me. Okay. Maybe I was wrong, but still this. And they thought they could stop me. God damn it died. Sora's worried about the raft, so my guy just ups and leaves. His mom calls him down for dinner, but he's gone. And we never hear from her again either. 10 out of 10 parenting. Sora arrives at the island and finds Riku, who is right underneath the eye of the storm. Him being the emo he is doesn't really give a shit about what is happening, gives himself into the darkness. Sora tried to go with him, but he got an oversized house key, otherwise known as the Keyblade. Damn, so you're telling me all I had to do was cancel hanging out with my friends and I wouldn't have to pay $50 for this? Sora tries to find Kairi, and well, he does, but after this door that you may or may not recognize from earlier swings open, Kairi disappears and Sora gets blown straight out of the cave and onto a piece of the island as it's being destroyed. Our boy Darkseid makes a return, and it's just basically the same thing as before, but slightly harder, and you know, in the middle of a freaking disaster while everything is being destroyed. After defeating Darkseid for the second time now, both it and Sora get sucked up into the Eye of the Storm. I love how while Sora is holding on for dear life, Darkseid is just kinda chill with it and floats away. Now we are catching up with Donald, Goofy, and Pluto. Goofy starts following Pluto, and Donald has to be a huge asshole, completely disregards Goofy, but that so happens to be where Sora is. Sora wakes up in an alleyway like every other teenager after a high school prom, disoriented and confused. He soon realizes that he's not on Destiny Islands anymore, so we go to the accessory shop where we meet Sid. Sid explains to Sora that he is in a different world. We then leave, run into some enemies, run back to Sid's shop, then run into Leon, who commits child abuse via the fireballed oversized sword method. You can beat this fight technically and have an alternate cutscene, but it does not affect the overall story. Oh yeah, Riku woke up somewhere else and tried to scream out for Sora and Kairi, but can't because final mix. Anyways, Donald gets the living shit scared out of him by Aerith, and Sora wakes up after his encounter with Leon. He must have gotten beaten pretty hard, because at first he thinks Yuffie is Kairi, but eventually comes to the conclusion that she isn't. Leon and Yuffie explain to Sora what the Keyblade is, why it's important, and the consequences of being the Keyblade wielder. While Aerith is in the other room basically explaining the same thing to Donald and Goofy, all of a sudden tons of Heartless start spawning in the hotel. So Leon breaks out a window, Sora leaves through the normal exit, and Donald gets hit by the door. I just feel bad for the employees who have to keep this hotel clean. Come on, I just had to clean up. And we've already had to replace that window twice this week. We arrive at the 3rd district where we finally get Donald and Goofy in our party. After fighting some soldier Heartless, we fight our first real boss, Guard Armor. It looks different depending on what version of the game you are playing. I always go for one appendage at a time to make it easier for myself. This boss can be unforgiving to newcomers. I remember being 7 years old and constantly getting stuck on this boss. It constantly stomps on you, the hands spin, and the body starts spinning as well. This boss I struggled a lot with my first playthrough, especially not knowing how the game worked. I just kept constantly healing Donald and Goofy because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. After we finally get through it, we continue with Sora once he's done making the new Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare. He decides to go along with Donald and Goofy. The three of them set off, and now we get the shittiest version of Star Fox that I've ever played. I hear everyone complaining that Star Fox Zero is bad. Trust me, it is way better than the Gummy Ship levels in this. The Gummy Ship missions are the game's main form of transportation, and are garbage. It is very slow. Not only is it slow, but I could just tape down the circle button, leave the room, and do something else until we arrive at our destination. A lot of people would say to me,
Ventus, it's originally a PS2 game. You're asking way too much.
No, I'm not. When this part of the game looks like this, and rest of the game looks like this, I think I can complain at least a little. We now arrive at Wonderland from the Disney classic Alice in Wonderland. We walk in, talk to the doorknob with narcolepsy, and he essentially tells us to do drugs. After taking the doorknob's top tier, Oscar-winning, Academy Award advice, we shrink down, which is really a game changer because now instead of being in this small room, it's a huge area for you to explore and fight different enemies. I personally really liked traversing this area being at a mouse-sized perspective. It really makes the whole area for me. We then go to the castle garden that acts as a court. Alice is being charged for the crimes that the Heartless are committing by one of the worst characters in the game, the Queen of Hearts. I don't care that she's originally a Disney character, I still have a strong hate for her, and she's definitely on my list of most hated characters in the series as a whole. So it's up to Sora to find all the evidence for them to let Alice go free. And we also meet... Yeah, this. I know the Cheshire Cat was in the original film, but as a 3D model, something about it just feels offsetting. The game makes it seem like it wants you to travel across the land searching far and wide for all the different pieces of evidence. But really, I only found one, and that's pretty much all you need. Welp, guess I'm doing this on my own. Yeah, so I may have forgotten to mention that if you don't collect all the evidence, there is a chance Donald and Goofy will end up getting locked up. We now have to destroy this tower that lets down the cage that Alice is in. We have an entire deck of cards freaking attacking us with one of the most annoying voices I've ever heard. The cards scare me. Once the tower is destroyed, the cage is dropped, Alice is missing. We then go back to the forest, and now all of the entrances to the bazaar room are changed. You now enter in on different walls, and so you're able to see things up close that you otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to. You light some lights, get harassed by this cat, which still scares me, and light some more lights. We then go back to the original bazaar room and find this Cheshire Cat just chilling on the table. All of a sudden, yup, this is happening. So before we even get the chance to grow back to regular full size, this Heartless comes in. The game makes you utilize the different pieces of furniture as platforms to jump onto. I think it's a really neat idea, but it's just irritating. When the table gets destroyed, it makes me just want to scream in agonizing pain. And that's not even the worst of it. He can walk over to the fireplace and freaking just light the 2 sticks in his hand on fire and use them as projectiles. I'm just constantly running around, jumping on things, and trying to hit him while trying to avoid his stupid fireballs. It doesn't help that Donald and Goofy are gone within the first 5 seconds of every boss fight. Finally, after beating this boss, Sora locks the keyhole that is in the sleeping doorknob's mouth. I guess he just flat out doesn't give a shit. Oh yeah! Did I mention Maleficent and the other Disney villains are watching over our main trio and they also kidnapped Alice? Well, Alice must be having fun. But I find it kind of weird that the Disney villains can just look in on Sora, Donald, and Goofy whenever they want to.
Well, this guy really doesn't know how easy it is to hack a Ring camera.
Our next world is Deep Jungle. We enter like this. Whoa! Yeah, concussions are fun. Right off the bat, we're separated from Donald and Goofy and run into Savor the jaguar. It's another one of those optional bosses where it doesn't really care if you defeat him, but if you do, there is an alternate cutscene. Tarzan comes in and saves your ass from Savor. Sora then decides to do some basic English phrases. He blindly believes Tarzan knows the location of Riku and Kairi despite his lack of an ability to form a coherent sentence, and they both go see Tarzan's friend Jane. We get this sick tree sliding section, which reminds me of the city escape level from Sonic Adventure.
Rolling around at the speed of sound, got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow.
Sora then reunites with Donald and Goofy, and we are also introduced to this world's Disney villain, Clayton. Instead of treating it like National Geographic like Jane does, Clayton would rather play real-life Call of Duty with the gorillas. He seems to have a deep hatred for these monkeys.
Wait a second. Monkey?
So guess what we gotta do? Collect slides!
Let's fucking go! Let's go! Slides! Let's fucking go! We're just collecting slides!
Yeah, I don't exactly get why Jane's first instinct is to get us to collect slides instead of going after the obvious threat right in front of us. We go collect some slides because we need to remind Tarzan of some random shit. I'm sorry to anyone who likes this movie, but I am completely unsure of the significance of any of these things that are in this slideshow. And then the Heartless. But this time they are monkeys, because why not? After rescuing the gorillas from them, we walk into on our boy Clayton trying to 360 no-scope one of the gorillas. So now we have to go all the way back down from the treehouse. This world has a lot of backtracing, which is the main thing I don't like about it. There have been times in video games where I don't mind backtracing. Like for example, the Forest Temple from Ocarina of Time. But I swear, Hippo Lagoon had me doing so many misjumps and then you have to swim all the way back to the platform you were at. Not to mention the vine mechanic, which is necessary if you want to fully complete the game. It's tedious, and if you fall, you get sent all the way back down to Hippo Lagoon and have to traverse all the way back up there. Now that we are done with the headache that is Hippo Lagoon, we fight an actual defeatable version of Savor. All I did was lock onto Sabor's location constantly and wail on him with the Keyblade. He doesn't really have any attacks that are devastating, and he's pretty small, so unless you're a small child like I was when I first played the game, you should be fine. We go back to the tent and see that Jane got kidnapped along with one of the gorillas. For some reason, we have to beat up this big fruit in order to set her free. This part gets me a little frustrated sometimes. I'll be trying to hit this fruit and the Heartless will keep smacking me after they've already murdered Donald and Goofy. We then head down to our final boss, Clayton. You start fighting him and it's not too bad until he pulls out this giant fucking lizard. This boss makes me angry. I will try to focus on one target and the other will constantly be attacking. I constantly have died from the lizard shooting me with the lasers out of his eyes, and Clayton going all Yosemite Sam on my ass. I have this key, a talking dog and duck, but he's got a giant ass lizard and a fucking gun. Yeah, that sure is fair. Finally, after beating his ass, we get yeeted by the gorillas. We now get to see behind some waterfalls, which I've always kind of liked for some reason. It might just be the Canadian in me kicking in, I don't know. We then seal the keyhole for Deep Jungle, and Tarzan admits to you that Riku and Kairi were never there to begin with, that it's friends in your heart. You little shit! Once again, we hear from the FBI agents assigned to our main trio. And now Danny DeVito! We arrive at Olympus Coliseum and we get to see our main trio interact with the legend himself. For whatever reason, he mistakes Sora, a 14-year-old, for Hercules, a literal god, and tries to make Sora push this pedestal so he can prepare for the games. Harry Wormwood finally realizes that it's not Hercules, and basically tells Sora, fuck you, but also still gives him some training. It's pretty basic. Your main task is just to destroy all the barrels under a time limit. It's completely fine, except for this one barrel, which if you destroy the other one that you're supposed to throw at it first, you're screwed. When you're done your training, Owen Lift is still like, no, fuck you, but decides to give you the Thunder Spell. We then leave, but are stopped by Hades, who gives us a pass. So we go back in and give the pass to Penguin over here, and he doesn't question how we really got it. Now we are finally in the games, which is just an enemy rush mode ending with a boss fight with Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. During this world, there is a side plot of Cloud getting a false promise by Hades to find his light. I wonder if he knows I was just talking to his dead girlfriend. Anyways, Cloud can be kind of a difficult boss, but just like Leon and Sabor, if you lose to him, the game doesn't really punish you, and there's an alternate cutscene depending on how the fight goes. You just have to make sure to avoid every time he comes flying at you with that damn Buster Sword all the way from the other side of the room. Oh, and when he actually starts flying, spam dodge roll. It was the difference between life and death for me sometimes. Once we're done with Cloud, Cerberus comes in, and Hercules has to go save Cloud. Wayne the pool guy is having a panic attack about Herc not being able to take on Cerberus, despite the fact that he's a literal god. So now, we are taking on Cerberus. And my god, he shoots projectiles at you constantly. And when I go up to attack his target, being one of the heads, I still have to worry about one of the other ones trying to bite me. That's not even the worst part. He will start puking on the ground like he smoked 12 packs of cigarettes, and these things will start popping out of the ground. All I can do here is dodge roll for my life until it's over. When we are finally done with him, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are pronounced junior heroes. Why weren't they pronounced regular heroes? Even they were complaining about it. They defeated a beast from literal frickin' hell, and that apparently isn't good enough. On our way out, Sora runs into Cloud. They exchange some words of encouragement to each other. Despite Sora's island just being destroyed, and Cloud facing his own inner demons, they are able to give each other some advice and strength to help them both on their journeys. I really like this moment. It reminds me of times in my life where me and my friends were not having the best time, but we were there to help each other. Maleficent shows up and talks to Hades about their next move. Olympus Coliseum beyond this point serves as a tournament-esque world. You can go there to fight in cups and unlock some pretty sweet items and abilities, such as the Metal Chocobo and Ars Arcanum. We were back in Traverse Town. After committing a prison break and talking to Leon about keyholes, we then go to see Sid about the gummy blocks that we've been collecting along all the worlds. He gives us a book to go drop off at the 3rd district. We meet Merlin, who tries to teach you magic, but let's all be honest. Most of us tried that thing with the furniture once and then never again. We also meet Fairy Godmother, who just gives us summons. That's pretty much it. The book we delivered happens to be the 100-Acre Wood, otherwise known as the Winnie the Pooh world. I'm gonna give a brief synopsis of this world because there's not really too much going on with it. Basically, this book is damaged, so different parts of the world and Pooh's friends are missing. Pooh is just straight up accepting death at this point, and Sora doesn't even know what to think of it. To fix this issue, we are given the task to find the missing pages throughout the game. Rest of it is pretty much exploring the world of the 100-Acre Wood, playing mini-games, and some of which involve abusing Pooh and property damage. We also have to focus on getting the characters back together and just overall vibing with Pooh. Once we are done with Bootleg Yen Sid and Diabetic, probably drug-addicted Bear, we run into Riku after not seeing him since the island got destroyed. Sora tries to bring Riku with him, but Donald has to be a huge dick and Riku ends up disappearing. Sora then goes to talk to legit every Final Fantasy character in the game except for Moogle and Cloud. Riku is with Maleficent and sees Sora is hanging out with people from another Square Enix franchise, so he gets pissed and decides to side with Maleficent. While that is happening, Sora and the gang, after ringing some bells, run into guard armor again! This time, his hands become his feet, and his feet become his hands. That somehow makes him way more powerful when he tries to stomp on you and hit you with his hands. But it doesn't stop there. My guy then pulls a generic anime move. This is one of those bosses that only gave me a hard time on... But as long as you have some potions along with your cure spell, you should be fine. Once you've completed that, Sora locks the keyhole in Traverse Town. Now with the help of Sid, we have access to a bunch more worlds. Our first is Agrabah.
A whole new world!
This world starts off with Maleficent discussing plans to kidnap Jasmine with Jafar. Our main trio arrives and we are automatically put into battle. Just some regular fighting, nothing new. We then go around the world, free carpet, protect Jasmine, and casually run into Aladdin as he almost fucking dies to the quicksand. Now that Aladdin is saved from dying like it's World 2 in a new Super Mario Bros. Game, we unlock some locks to access rest of the areas and find Jafar. Jafar has Jasmine and throws her into a pot, and now all of a sudden, a Heartless centipede boss. This boss is more tedious than anything, having to constantly keep track of where the actual bug part of the boss is, and depending on your amount of defense, this freaking whip move with his antenna can be devastating. Once we are done with that, we head back to the desert, where there is a giant ass lion head, otherwise known as the Cave of Wonders. My guy has laser beams shooting out of his eyes. This fight is also rather tedious because you have to hop on top of his nose and slash each of his eyeballs until they aren't purple anymore. He will also sneeze, which infuriates me because you will get knocked off and he will spit out Heartless, which will slash you to death with their swords until you die. Once you've escaped death by bandits in this lion head, we enter the Cave of Wonders and destroy the structural integrity. Just your usual Saturday afternoon. Come on, this is the third time this week. The house is going to fall soon. We then go into the treasure room. There's a lot of treasure here. Who would have thought it? But never mind that, because we gotta go fight Jafar. Jafar stole Genie from Aladdin and is now using him to reveal the keyhole and take care of Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Aladdin. This one is super annoying because this man just loves to levitate all around the room and shoot different projectiles at us. And he'll do this weird ice tornado blizzard thing. I don't really understand how it fits in though. Now this levitating ability he has, I hate it so much. He turns into this orb thing and you can't attack him while he's in this state, so that's fun. And when he returns to normal, he'll seem like he's gonna stay in one spot, but then he just floats away laughing at you. He's not even that hard of a boss. It just feels like most of the battle you're chasing after him. Right after this fight is over, Jafar tells Genie to turn him into an all-powerful genie, and also Jasmine gets kidnapped. We now have our second phase of Jafar, which is painfully easy. They make it seem like it is supposed to be impossible to beat considering it's down in what looks like hell. Really, all we do is chase down Iago and wail on Jafar's lamp with the Keyblade. As I stated before, this one is also painfully easy but does not take nearly as long as the first phase. Now that Jafar is defeated, Sora locks the keyhole and we play the newest Star Fox game. See, this is actually kind of fun. Why couldn't they make the gummy ship missions more like this? On to the next world, and oh shit, there is a huge whale swallowing us. Welcome to the world of Maestro, where Pinocchio and Geppetto are located. This world is like you took Jabu Jabu's belly from Ocarina of Time and made it way more colorful. And an overly complicated maze. Seriously, this world made me want to bash my head off the table. I'd go from chamber 1 to 2, and then all of a sudden we go from chamber 2 and we end up at 6. What? This doesn't look like the right place. This doesn't look like the right place either. Okay, what the hell is even going on at this point? Also, Riku is here, and is messing around with Pinocchio. Probably should have mentioned that. After 3 hours of running around in what honestly looks like it's part of the fucking Wiggles, we find Pinocchio inside of the mouth of this world's boss, Cage Parasite. So we have to defeat it in order to free him. This boss is honestly not that hard, but it has a certain charm to it. I can't really describe it. He will sometimes try to jump up, hit you, and wave his arms in the air, but nothing too crazy. Oh yeah, Pinocchio's screaming the entire time. Now that we are done with that, Riku takes Pinocchio. Again. And claims to be using him to give someone a new heart. We then unlock high jump so we can jump up and go after them again. Once we reach Riku, we find Pinocchio almost unconscious. How much bubblegum flavored children's Tylenol did you give him? He's apparently okay all of a sudden, because we can't have death in a Disney property. The boss from before makes a return, except there's acid on the ground, which is only a slight inconvenience. It never really added too much challenge to the boss for me. And if anything, this version is easier because he'll open up his mouth and you can attack in there where he's way more vulnerable and it does way more damage. We defeat this boss, which causes Maestro to sneeze, sending Sora and the gang along with Geppetto and Pinocchio out of there. As for Riku, he teleported back to Maleficent where she reveals the location of Kairi. Now we're on to the spooktacular world of Halloween Town. I've already discussed my opinions about this world back in my Ocarina of Time video when I compared it to the Shadow Temple, and I don't really feel like talking about it again, so take it away, TNG.
My personal favorite world in the original Kingdom Hearts, and totally not because The Nightmare Before Christmas is my favorite film of all time, is Halloween Town. Its aesthetic truly shines better than any other world in the entire game, with its designs and textures feeling so unlike the rest of the game's worlds in an original way, with Sora and the gang's costumes even changing for the duration of your stay. unlike in Atlantica, because you know those ones are kind of weird, not gonna lie. So, the story for this world begins with our heroes finding Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town, as he attempts to orchestrate a coordinated dance for the Heartless to perform alongside him for the upcoming Halloween event that the town hosts every year. But for Jack, the dances aren't good enough, so he gets the help of the mad scientist Dr. Finkelstein to create an artificial heart for the Heartless, with Sora unlocking it with his Keyblade. But, nonetheless, the experiment goes wrong, with Finkelstein informing our gang that Sally holds the missing ingredient. Once leaving the lab, the Heartless begin to attack our heroes, as they usually do in every other world, to the dismay of Jack. We soon find Sally, who has a forget-me-not flower, which contains the final key ingredient in the artificial heart, which is memory. Once our heroes head back to the lab, Lock, Shock, and Barrel steal the artificial heart in order to bring it back to Oogie Boogie's lair so that Oogie can use the artificial heart to control the Heartless. Once reaching Oogie's manor, our heroes get past Lock, Shock, and Barrel and then confront Oogie himself in his casino as he consumes the artificial heart, allowing him to control two Heartless. Like just two. What a loser. What a fucking loser. We then begin the boss fight against Oogie, as we have to attack the Heartless he sends after us, and then trap him inside a cage that comes up after pressing buttons that Oogie purposefully laid on the floor as he runs around on the top floor, which you can't jump up on because there's an invisible wall there, and you can't just throw your Keyblade at him, of course. You can't just throw the Keyblade at him or shoot fire at him. No, that doesn't work because the invisible wall is there. So, once you finally press the button that Oogie laid on the floor, a cage comes up that he also put there in order for you to jump up once the floor finally rises up so you can attack him. And after doing that multiple times, the boss fight is over. Pretty good boss fight though, not gonna lie. After defeating him, Oogie uses the power of the artificial heart along with the darkness in order to fuse with his manor, becoming like a giant, just a giant thing. Like, look at that! What is that? Little trivia note here from the Nightmare Before Christmas nerd. I'm pretty confident in saying that this boss fight right here inspired the final boss fight of the Capcom-developed game Oogie's Revenge. It came out, in order to defeat this boss, our heroes have to travel around the manor, finding purple globs of darkness that you have to destroy, and once all of them are destroyed, the boss is finally over. And to be honest, this boss fight kind of feels a little bit like Shadow of the Colossus to me, which is really cool for a boss fight in Kingdom Hearts 1 of all things. But alas, once our heroes finally destroy each and every single purple glob of darkness covered on Oogie's unfathomably ugly body, the manor implodes on itself, and the world's keyhole is revealed to be underneath Oogie's manor the entire time, as Sora then proceeds to seal it. Our gang then heads back to Dr. Finkelstein's lab, with Jack reflecting on his actions as he learns a valuable lesson, which is, to listen to Sally? Which he then proceeds to forget in the movie because he does the exact same thing there. Jack is kinda dumb when you think about it. He's a dumb guy. Anyways, I personally love this world, along with all the enemies that inhabit it, with each room in the world being laid out as exactly as it would be in the movie. The aesthetic is perfect, along with the tone and style that the movie would look like. Honestly, it's just such a phenomenal level, which just leads it to being my absolute favorite level in Kingdom Hearts 1 and also in Kingdom Hearts 2. But it's just clear that Nomura put a lot of love into Halloween Town. Back to you, Ventus.
Okay, now on to our next... Oh my god. I ain't doing this. Queen Melody, your turn.
Now it's time to take a deep dive into arguably the most annoying world in all of Kingdom Hearts. And yes, deep dive was pun intended, and if you know which world I'm talking about just from that dad joke, you probably invested more hours into this game than you should have. Here we dive into the world of Atlantica. Hold your breath because we're going for a swim. What the hell? Sora's a mermaid? Goofy is a sea turtle? Dogs? Donald is a... I don't even know what the hell this is. So with the help of Donald's magic, we're able to transform ourselves into creatures of the sea, learning how to swim, which really sucks by the way, and fighting off Heartless with the help of none other than the quirky but terribly irritating Princess Ariel. Her magic is useless by the way, I never have her in my party. Now it's time to make our way to King Triton's palace. He gives us a boring lecture, Ariel storms away, and we are led into Ariel's grotto. Here we are met with a bunch of shiny things from the human world, and honestly, why does Sora look so amazed? Talking to Flounder will reveal that there is a big fish that is able to swim against strong currents. I don't really understand the mechanics of this one. Holy hell, this is the best thing we've done this entire world. After spending unnecessarily long minutes screwing around on the dolphin, now we go back to the main objective, making our way to the spooky sunken ship. Holy, a shark! Finally a cool mini boss! Wait, never mind, just grab the chest. Now we have the crystal trident, which I honestly forgot what we were supposed to do with this, but we should probably just take it back to the grotto. Wait, we can fight the shark now? This is gonna be so much fun. That was the biggest waste of time. Time to make our way to the grotto and put the trident in its rightful place. Finally, we've done something important. Oh, well, sheesh. I'm glad all that work is over. Now we can finally be done. Are you freaking kidding me? And now Ariel's storming off again. So cut to a scene and we see Ariel brooding while the evil thick octopus lady approaches. This can't be good. Time to make our way back to the sunken ship. There's a secret passage at the front of the ship, which Sebastian leads us into. This area is known as the Den of Tides, which is a save point room before we get into the big boss fight. Now there's really no mechanic to this boss fight other than to just spam Fyra, Blizzara at Ursa's cauldron in order to overwhelm it with magic. And by the way, can someone please explain to me how Fyra works underwater? This is ridiculous at this point, but moving on. So counteract Ursa's magic by casting Fyra when her potions are blue and Blizzara when they're red. Simple enough. I'm honestly just so glad we're finally done with this world. Wait, what the hell is this? All Kingdom Hearts fans know what this means. So now we have to fight Ursula for the final time, but this time she's thicker than molasses and throwing big lightning bolts at you, which is super annoying, and if you've ever played this on Child, you understand what true rage is. So let's take a few hits to her crown, which somehow does, damn it, and voila! We have finally beaten the evil thick octopus lady, and now we can finally seal the keyhole and leave this godforsaken world for good. We go back in Kingdom Hearts 2. Are you
Anyways, now into the final Disney world, Neverland. We start off on the deck of the ship with Donald and Goofy nowhere to be found. Riku is teamed up with Captain Hook and found Kairi? It's never explained where she is found exactly, so we are left wondering. They have plans to sail the ship to Hollow Bastion. Sora calls Riku stupid. Riku then pulls up what is basically a Heartless clone of Sora and then sends him through a trapdoor where Donald and Goofy are. Sora seems really happy despite the fact that he was trapped by pirates. We meet Peter Pan, who is looking for Wendy, so the two decide to team up to find Wendy and Kairi. I find this world's Heartless to be some of my favorites. They are all pirate themed and it fits really well. We eventually run into Wendy, and she is in a cabin room with Kairi. Kairi isn't exactly...
She seems to be asleep.
Yeah, let's go with that. Sora somehow gets her lifeless body to interact with him through a hand twitch. All of a sudden, Wendy gets pulled away along with Kairi. Did she get shoved in the dresser? We eventually get up to the cabin rooms. One is locked and the other isn't. We go into the unlocked one and find a Trinity that drops down a ladder. Up there, we run into Riku, who is carrying Kairi, and he spawns in another Shadow Sora, which ends up being a boss. This boss is tough but fair. Shadow Sora is a lot stronger and can really pack a punch. He'll do this move where he clones himself and you have to make sure you hit the right one. It reminds me a lot of Dark Link from Ocarina of Time. At this point, I'm wondering if Mr. Numura was inspired by the game. Once Shadow Sora is gone, we find Wendy, and Peter leaves your party to take care of her. We go back out to the deck where Captain Hook is forcing Sora and the gang to either give up the Keyblade or they're live. Sora goes to jump into the alligator's mouth, then all of a sudden... Damn, death was right in his face, and my man wasn't afraid to face it. I respect that. Peter returns, and Hook being Hook gets someone else to do his dirty work, that being the Heartless, which Sora and the gang defeat all of them. Peter lures out Captain Hook pretending to be Smee and freaking stabs him directly in the back.
911, what's your emergency?
Hi, I just witnessed a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old stab a man.
Okay. Where are you located?
In the middle of the ocean.
Is there anyone else there?
Yeah, just an anthropomorphic duck and dog. Hello? Hello?
Now it's time to fight Captain Hook. This boss wouldn't be that difficult if there weren't Heartless spawning left and right. 90% of the time I died in this fight was because of the Heartless coming at me while I was trying to attack Hook. Hook only really has one devastating move when he does these slashes with his hook. This boss fight has way too much going on in my opinion, and depending on what mode you play, you may break a controller or two. Or 70. Sora then talks about how he can't believe that he flew and that he can't wait to tell Kairi. It's kind of a bittersweet moment. Sora found Kairi but was unable to get to her. Despite all of that, he still has an optimistic outlook, which is one of his character traits that I really appreciate. Peter then takes us to the clock tower in London, England, where we lock the keyhole. I wonder what people who just looked up to see the time thought when they saw this happening.
And one more copy of Yoshi's Universal Gravitation in the bag. Oh, what the fuck?
We are now on our way to our semi-final world, Hollow Bastion. We start going forward when we run into Riku while he's beating the shit out of a valuable Disney property from the 90s. Sora then goes up to Riku, and Riku states that there can't be two Keyblade Masters, even though all the other games in the series completely throw that out the window. He somehow takes the Keyblade from Sora along with Donald and Goofy. Instead of laying there in despair, Sora decides to team up with the Beast to save Kairi. And also Belle. Probably should have mentioned that. Now since there is no Donald, Goofy, or Keyblade, you have to rely on magic and Beast attacking. We also are stuck here because we can't use the gummy ship. This is where the game turns into straight up Zelda. That doesn't last too long. We run into Riku, who now has a completely new fit. This is where Sora delivers the monologue that I believe shaped me as a kid for the rest of my life.
Although my heart may be weak, it's not alone. It's grown with each new experience, and it's found a home with all the friends I've made. I've become part of their heart just as they've become a part of mine. And if they think of me now and then, if they don't forget me, then our hearts will be one. I don't need a weapon. My friends are my power.
Wow. I know I really didn't talk about much about Sora's growth as a character, but throughout the game, we get to see the effect of everything Sora has gone through up to this point. He goes from being a confused, arrogant kid to a selfless hero. Sora then puts himself in the way of Riku's wrath when Goofy steps in and protects Sora with his shield. Donald joins alongside the two, despite the king's wishes. Sora gets the Keyblade back, and our trio goes up against Riku. This boss honestly doesn't really have any defining traits. He just slashes you repeatedly. All you really have to do to beat him is just keep hitting him repeatedly. He's not that hard as long as you are leveled up. Actually, when I was younger, I used the Kingdom Key for this fight so the cutscenes would look correct for whatever reason, and I was still able to beat him. We then hop into an elevator that takes us to the next area, which leads us to Maleficent, who is our next boss. Her first stage, she just kind of shoots you from her little platform. You knock her down, whack the shit out of her with your big ass key, bada bing, bada boom, done. She gets stabbed by Riku and turns into a fucking dragon. This boss is basically like you took the Cerberus boss fight, gave it only one head, and let it have more health. And everything is on fire. Yeah, that doesn't sound too fun. I was relying on Tinkerbell this entire fight because she constantly heals you throughout it. And if you get a devastating blow, she appears and leaves you with a new full bar of health. You do have to make sure to summon her at the beginning of the fight because these two idiots are like leaving two toddlers unsupervised with exposed electrical outlets and open bottles of bleach. Once we are done with her, we go to the area where Riku is keeping all the Disney princesses along with Kairi. We learn Kairi's heart has been residing inside Sora since Destiny Islands was destroyed. When Sora is about to give up, Kairi's heart shouts out and helps him keep going. Now we're fighting Riku, again. What? On our own.
Damn.
Riku is more powerful than last time with the same attacks, but now he's also a damn Beyblade. During this fight, Dodge Roll and Glide were my best friends. If you get hit, especially while this man is Super Saiyan, you better be stocked up on potions. Funnily enough, on the PS2 version, there is a glitch where you can access the pause menu to restock during the battle. Once you defeat Riku, Sora tries to lock the keyhole, but it's not finished yet, because it needs the heart of all the princesses, including Kairi. Sora picks up Riku's Keyblade and uses it to unlock Kairi's heart from inside of him. And it also releases the hearts of Alice, Snow White, Jasmine, Belle, Aurora, and Cinderella. Kairi then wakes up as Sora is fading away. Our main villain, Ansem, who has been possessing Riku the entire time, tries to get Kairi to assist him with his dark plans, but Riku stops him and tells Kairi to run away with Donald and Goofy. That's when a Shadow Heartless, or what one of my friends calls a bunny, appears, and it's Sora. We actually get to play as the Heartless. I really like this section because we don't have to fight anything, so we just take a stroll down there. You can't save or open chests, but that doesn't last long because we run into Kairi, Donald, and Goofy. A bunch of other shadows are after them, so Kairi starts her Hug a Heartless Foundation and Sora is back. They all flee back to Traverse Town, where we prepare for the final part of this journey. We have to collect a gummy in the secret waterway. While down there, we run into Kairi, and the two discuss Riku and what their plans are. Kairi wants to go with Sora, but he refrains from that idea, so she gives Sora her lucky charm to hold on to and bring back when they reunite. Sid installs the new gummy piece so we can fly back to Hollow Bastion, where Heartless are pouring out everywhere and spreading across multiple worlds, basically making every world have the Heartless from Hollow Bastion. Once we arrive back in Hollow Bastion, we go into the keyhole and defeat the Heartless inside. The Heartless here is named the Behemoth, after the enemy in Final Fantasy. All you have to do is hop on top of it and whack the shit out of the horn on his head. That's about it. He does these stomps and occasionally thunderbolts, but nothing really that threatening though. We run into Leon and the gang, who say their last goodbyes because once the final door is locked, everyone will go back to their original worlds and won't be able to use the gummy ships to visit each other. Now on to the end of the world, which is all that's left of the worlds taken by the Heartless. We start off by opening a chest and... yeah, that will tend to happen randomly, and you will be put into a fight with multiple Invisible, Dark Ball, and Angel Star Heartless. They are a lot more powerful than the Heartless we've come across before. These parts can be really irritating, especially with the random encounters. I'm trying to play a game made by Square Enix, not Pokemon. After that whole mess, we just go through a couple other areas which don't really hold that much significance. But we do end up running through these sections that are kind of like flashbacks to the previous worlds and fight the Heartless that correspond with each world. Why did we have to go back to the Atlantica physics? After that little nostalgia trip, we go on to the Chernobog boss fight. Now I didn't have that much of a struggle with it, so I'm going to let somebody else who did cover this fight.
Here is a statement I stand by after my first and only playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 1. I hate the end of the world. If there is a video game land I would at least like to be in, it would have to be the end of the world, which is awfully ironic because it's literally the end of the world. Excuse me. So you can imagine the pain that this world brings me before entering this boss fight. At least for my playthrough, grinding was a necessity, which was something I was not aware of before entering the boss fight with the Chernobog. This evil being was the result of my PlayStation controller almost being broken in half. Admittedly, my level was probably too low for me to be complaining about this boss, but this is my section of the video, let me complain, okay? This boss has several different layers on its health bar, which makes sense as, 1, it is the end of the game, so the bosses get more difficult and more health, and 2, this thing is huge! Especially when it throws up its firewall, where you have to literally fly all the way across the map in order to not get damage. Which Goofy and Donald don't really know how to do. Anyways, after getting into a rhythm, this boss isn't too bad. Just fly away from its firewalls and reflect the energy balls that it throws at you. Use an opening, fly behind its head, and mash the X button until your fingers fall off. Eventually, the thing will die. Just, for the love of God, be at a proper level or else you will have a painful experience. Like me.
Well, now that Jack Division is traumatized from Chernobog, it's time to continue. We're now going to this area where you fight another behemoth. Simple, right? No, nothing is that simple. There's waves of Invisible, Angel Star, and Dark Ball Heartless, and there are many of them. This part of the game tested my patience more than any boss has. You have 4 to 8 Heartless after you at a time. It just infuriates me. The Invisibles will be trying to hit you and put a ring around you. The Dark Ball Heartless will be trying to bite you and teleporting around the room. And then there are the Angel Star Heartless, which don't give you that much trouble, but when they put their wings over their faces, you can't do much damage, and you're trying to attack them with everything you have. This part had me and my friends spending our entire New Year's Eve in 2019 trying to get past this section, and I wasn't even able to beat it until the next day after I got home. When you are finally done, we reach the door. Once you go through, we end up at Destiny Islands. It starts falling apart, and we see Riku, who Ansem has fully taken over, and his physical form changes to Ansem. We now have to fight him. He's not that hard, except when he sends his little Heartless guardian to possess you. We then run into our good old buddy Darkseid. He's legit the same as before, so I'm not going to go into it. Same with Ansem, but also like Riku, decides to be a Beyblade. And we're done. Yeah. Holy shit, he's fucking huge. This is some Attack on Titan type stuff. We're now flying around attacking Ansem while he's hitting us with this blade thing? I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, you're constantly getting destroyed, so Eraga was my lord and savior. The second stage of this boss, you have to break out of this chamber filled with Heartless that you have to defeat in order to get out. You then do the same for Donald and Goofy. Once you're done with that, it's the exact same as the first stage, but now you have Donald and Goofy with you. Finally, after defeating the boss, Ansem is destroyed by the door known as Kingdom Hearts. Sora, Riku, Donald, and Goofy together both close the door. Then Sora and the King both use their Keyblades to seal it. After sealing the door, Sora sees Kairi in the distance. The two slowly start drifting apart. Sora continues with Donald and Goofy, while Kairi is sent back to the newly restored Destiny Islands, and we have a more acoustic version of Simple and Clean play as Kairi reminisces about Sora. Kingdom Hearts, especially the first one, holds a very special place in my heart. You get to see the character growth of Sora and what the true meaning of friendship is. I know a lot of animes have kind of done this cliche, but I appreciate it a lot more because it was at a time where this wasn't as common. Overall, this game isn't perfect, but I still consider it the game that shaped me as a person, and I consider it my favorite game of all time.